Hi, this is Kimberly with Skiatook Bee Supply.
And this is Dutch with Mystic Mountain Homestead channel.
And today we're going to be doing our episode 2 of Come Prepare with Us.
And discussing what's important and what you need to buy now and why you need to buy it.
So today we're going to start with a list. And you can just jot this down. This is a list of things that you can buy to eat now and also for later, for long term. So we're going to start with
flour.
So flour is a wonderful thing to store back. You can buy white flour. It stores for quite a while, and you can store it back in several different ways. And we're going to be talking about different ways to store it. But the most important thing today in this video is things just to get them, have them in your home, and then we can worry about getting them stored away.
Get them while you can.
Yes, because I just got a notice on my phone this morning that there was supposed to be some like Walmart, Walgreens, Costco's, places like that are going to start limiting how much of certain items that we can buy. I've also heard the same thing about canning jars. So that's something that, we need to get these things, get them home, and then we can start putting them away properly and for long-term storage. So flour. I like wheat flour and spelt and some of those ancient grains like einkorn flour because they have more nutrients in them. They're more nutrient dense. But white flour is easier to come by. It's less expensive.
And it'll last longer on the shelf.
Well, it will last a lot longer than wheat flour will because it's got the whole grain in it and it's got more oils in it. So I'm not saying don't get some to store back because I kind of like to blend mine when I make bread. I'll maybe use a little bit of white flour and then add maybe wheat or spelt or einkorn flour into that. But that's something that really needs to be stored back is flour. And you can store the berries, the wheat berries or the whole grain back, and it will last longer not being ground up. So you might want to, if you start getting into storing quite a bit of your white flour back, you might want to get some of those wheat berries and store them back too, so that you can have an even longer food storage.
The next thing on our list is rice.
Okay, rice is a wonderful thing. I really recommend that you get rice. Stick with the white or jasmine rices, things like that, because they have a longer shelf life than does your brown rice. Now, I'm not saying, again, don't buy brown rice for more short-term, like, 6 to 8 months usage. But when you're looking at longer term storage, your white rices are going to be better. And that includes the long grain rices. You are not going to get as long of a term of storage out of those rices as you would with the white rice. So
the next thing on our list is pasta.
Okay. So pasta is a great thing to add to dishes to make it go further. So I recommend that you store some pasta back. Now, you can always use your flour and make homemade pasta, but it's always nice to have the convenience of having that pasta ready to go and the variety. Not all of us are experts at making spaghetti noodles or linguine noodles or the rotini noodles. So, and I can make, without any pasta machine, I can make like noodles for chicken and dumplings, or chicken and noodles, but I'm just not good at getting that dough thin enough by hand. But that's something that's wonderful to have stored back, and it can stretch meals out. And these are your starches. And starches are going to be calorie dense. And one very important thing about this list is that you need to have foods on this list and in your pantry that are very nutrient rich and calorie dense. Because if calories are hard to come by and food's hard to come by, then you want to be as healthy as you possibly can, because longer term you're going to do better if you're healthier.
All this stuff on this list is stuff you need to stock up on today.
Yes, this is stuff that you need to go to your grocery store and get. And you can get these things even if you're on a budget. You don't have to buy a whole year's worth or even 6 months worth, but get extra. Get some food in your pantry. Other than, some soup and some snack things and some crackers, you need some longer term food storage in your pantry to help buffer, hard times ahead. So next we're going to talk about proteins.
So different meats.
Meats, of course, is number one protein when we think about proteins. And I would suggest that you buy some canned meats. And that can be tuna, salmon, canned chicken. You can get canned turkey, canned beef.
And if you have the know-how, can it yourself.
Yes, we do a lot of canning of our own meats. But not everybody lives in the country or where they can produce their own meat. But even if you can't, a lot of times you can go to the butcher counter at like Sam's Wholesale Club for or Costco and get them to sell you, a big bulk package of meat, and it's a little less expensive. And then you can bring it home, cut it up, and either freeze it or can it. Now, I suggest canning, but that gets into different methods of storage. But I think it's important to have maybe some, if you're freezing, that's fine, but have some canned meats too, because they're going to be long-term storage in there. You don't have to worry about the power going out with cans.
The next thing we got is nuts and
nut butters.
Yeah, nut butters, I guess.
Well, also on the meats, I don't want to forget like the Spam.
Oh, yeah.
And potted meat and Vienna sausages. Some people love them.
That stuff will last forever, though.
Yeah, they have a lot of preservatives.
Right.
But some people really love them, but it is protein, and protein is important. But you're right, with the nut butters, nuts and nut butters. Nuts are high in protein, and they can be a nice source. Nut butters like peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. If you have nut allergies, please be very careful with that. Or if you have someone in your house, make sure everything, stays separate where somebody who has allergy doesn't get into that, because we do have a lot of allergies in that category. Another thing is the beans. Beans are a great source of protein, and there is brown beans, white beans, black beans, red kidney beans. What else is there? Butter beans. There's butter beans. Peas and lentils. Those are great sources of protein, and you can get those all dried and store them, and then you can have a source of protein for a long time. And it doesn't take a lot. And you can cook those fresh. And you can also buy them in a can. So some of these things you can get already done in cans, but I would recommend that you have both dried, put aside beans and lentils, and then maybe some in a can too. Or you can cook some up and can them yourself if you are so inclined to do canning. So that's a great thing. And then one of the big ones is
salt.
I can't tell you how much I recommend you're buying salt. I believe that you really need to buy a high quality salt. Redmond salts are really good high quality salt. But there's sea salts. If you can't afford the Redmonds right off, have salt available. You can buy sea salt, coarse ground salt, iodized salt, pickling and canning salt, which is a kosher salt. And one of the reasons you don't use iodized salt for pickling or canning is because of the iodine in it, which we as humans need iodine in our diet, some.
So it's good to stock up on an iodine.
Yeah, I have some iodized salt as well, but you don't want to use it in your canning or things like that, because it can discolor some of your canned goods. It doesn't harm it. It just gives it a little different tint.
So you could use it, that's all you had.
If you had it and that's all you had, then I would definitely use it. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is pool salt. And I want you to be careful with that, because you have to make sure it is 100% salt. But in the swimming pool section...
Read your labels.
That's right. Read the labels. And if you can find 100% pure salt, then that's a good way to buy a lot of salt in bulk and then be able to store it back. But it has to be 100% real salt, no chemicals added to it. So that's a way to get a lot of it. Another thing is vinegar. Vinegar can add a little zest and zing to some dishes. Like if you're making coleslaw, you're pickling, if you're going to do any canning with pickling or anything like that,
and
vinegar
that's something
is
you can
wonderful.
Actually produce yourself, right?
You can produce your own vinegar. It's nice to have a starter. So I always recommend that you buy something like Bragg's organic, 100% that has the mother in the bottle. And the mother sometimes is not appealing in the bottle because you get this kind of brown floaty in there, but it won't harm you at all. But that brown floaty mother can actually be a good starter to take some apples from your own tree if you have them, or get some apples from someone and start your own apple cider vinegar. So vinegar is going to be an important thing. Plus, you can use, if you're getting white vinegar, you can use it for cleaning. And I think that, especially during hard times and things like that, that it's one of the cleaning supplies that you can use to cut out some of the others. Like when I mop the floor, I use a little not apple cider, but white vinegar in my water. Plus, it cleans your coffee pot, and you can use it for sanitizing after you cut up a chicken or that sort of thing. So vinegar is a great thing to have on hand. Okay, so we talked about flour for baking, but think about some other things. You may want to have some sugar. Sugar is going to be a wonderful item to have, and I was hearing that that's one of the things they're talking about limiting is sugar.
And they are talking about limiting things again, so you need to stock up.
Yeah, so stock up on some sugar. Instead of, if you can afford to, instead of 1 5-pound bag, buy 3, or buy one of the 25-pound bags or 50-pound bags if you go to Sam's or Costco. But get some sugar, and that can be stored, and that will store it a long term. You might also be interested in powdered sugar. It's convenient to have it already powdered. There is a way to make it from your granulated sugar, but sometimes convenience is a wonderful thing. And in a time when there's so much going on, sometimes those conveniences can be great to have. So some powdered sugar, maybe some brown sugar would be nice to have. Honey. Put honey on your list. Make sure you have honey. And if you can get honey from a local beekeeper or someone who lives in your area, then that honey is going to be even better for you, because it's going to carry the pollen and all the things from your area, and it's going to help with allergies and that sort of thing. But honey never goes bad. That's something that really, 100 years from now, a jar of honey, if it was stored in such a way that it couldn't get any moisture in it, would still be good, most likely. So, baking powders, baking sodas, those are things that you need. Yeast to bake breads, to make baked goods with, that can add to your diet and add variety to your diet as well. Vanilla, or your favorite flavorings, whether it's black walnut or lemon flavoring, banana flavoring, whatever your favorite flavorings are. Vanilla is always a good basic one to go with. Try to get some of that. I always like to go with the real vanilla. And not the imitation, but that's totally up to you.
You are going to want to have some seasonings.
You definitely have seasonings, because that rice, the beans, that would be a great meal that gives you a lot of complex carbohydrates with protein if you had beans and rice. But you're going to get tired of that.
Yeah, you don't realize how important the seasoning is until you don't have it.
And if there's something on this list that you just do not like, don't buy it just because it's on the list. You have to like it. If you don't like Spam, don't buy Spam, and so I'm not going to be buying Spam. But anyway, that's totally up to you what you like. But if there's something you don't like, you're not going to eat. You're not going to want to be miserable, stuck eating something that you don't like just because it's the protein or the food that you have available. So that's something to keep in thought. Cinnamon, cumin, nutmeg. Some of these different oregano, some of the herbs, rosemary, garlic. I would buy, dried garlic, garlic powder, onion powder. All those things can be added to a rice dish to give it flavor and make it taste different. Like, the other night I made chicken and rice. But then a few nights later I took some, Mexican type seasonings with peppers and stuff like that, and made a beautiful Spanish rice dish.
Another thing we need to talk about stocking up on is dog food, cat foods, and other things like that.
And baby needs. If you have a baby or small children in your house, stock up on those items now. Those are important things that you really need to think about, because those things may not be available, and I'm already hearing formula shortages. So You need to really consider that, especially if you're expecting a new baby. You know, how are you going to feed that baby if you're not nursing?
Yeah, stock up on those little jars of food. Those do have a shelf life on them.
Yes, they do. And this is the thing about shelf life on canned goods like that. It will have a best used by date. That doesn't mean that it just goes bad on that very date. It can usually go longer. But you know, use your common sense about looking at things. Smell it, look at it, make sure that there was not getting air into a canned good like that. And I think that that will really be something that helps you. But get these items, and then one of our next videos, we're going to be talking about how to store these things properly. So if you can stock up now, they're in the house, you've already got them, you don't have to worry about it. Another thing is you may want some paper towels for your luxury, you know, your convenience. Also, some trash bags, because one of the things that we don't want to get is pests, and that's going to be another video that we'll do, is about how to keep the pests out of our food supply. So we'll talk about that within the video.
All right, guys, like, subscribe. Remember to smash that thumbs up button. Until next time.
We'll see you later. Bye-bye.